Okay, well, hopefully that's capturing the audio. Hello, everyone. I will just minimize this, and then I'll Control-Alt-T, generate another shell. Let's move into the project directory. Got a bunch of files in there already. Right, we've got Emacs window open. So, what this project is, just a very quick overview, sort of episode 1 of the Python scripting with Pandas on live data, and in some cases historical data. But it started as just a quick API call to some global JavaScript JSON object that was downloaded and saved to a local file and then read into a Python Pandas data structure, a data frame. So basically requesting the JSON file from the public API, and then, as you see in my comments here where the cursor is, writing it to a local JSON to be read into the Pandas data frame. Here's where we use open to open the file, and we write it with the request Python module to get the URL, and then here I'm reading it in the initial global data was in data type series. Little subtle differences that probably the next video I can get into that. A data frame type or a series type have different functions that can operate on them. And what I did is I converted this is the data frame updated, this is the square brackets select specifically for a column, and then what I did is I updated the Unix to date time. Make sure that you have imported the datetime module for Python. This little script up here commented basically tells Linux or Bash what type of file this is. Python 3. That's the shebang. So moving on, we'll look at the next. I have to divide this up into functions. It just started as, I guess, prototyping is the closest to how I like to work with Python in terms of coding paradigm or different ways, methods. Yeah, next little group of code here, getting the 30-day historical. So simply grabbing the JSON file that lists the last 30 days. Unfortunately, they didn't have the recovered. They only tracked cases and deaths for Canada. This is from the Worldometer site, I believe. Most of this is what I got it from. And here I'm reading the timeline for the historical there as a series. And down here I do it the same thing. I literally just copy pasted the code block and was careful to change some of the URL for USA. Here's the string query, the HTML string query for the URL. Jams it through the requests module, writes it to a file, goes through the Pandas data frame here, where I do Pandas import. I imported Pandas as PD, and then .read JSON is another module that Pandas has that you can run. Timeline, series type, data frame type, and cool. Down at the bottom, I wrote a couple of plots. So I plotted each one. So up here a little bit, where the cursor is, I created a simple plot using the data frame. And here, important line of code. I'll put all this on my GitHub so you don't actually have to bash it in. I hate when I'm watching along coding how to, and I gotta go through watching the guy debug active stuff that he's tried to type during the video. So I do type not too badly, but I get maybe 2 or 3 little errors every time I try to do a long session like this. So I'd rather talk about the code while you can read it on the screen and get you through each block, and then that way you'd understand when you finally bash it in, or just clone it from a GitHub repository. I don't really think I'm gonna keep this code private. It's pretty basic stuff. It's really cool just to learn how to quickly grab the data. And this is my little development site here. I'll just show you the result of this here. Go there. So that's the Canadian one. To put this into context, some of the comments on Imgur, where I'm hosting it, it does look really great in terms of look at how low the death rate is versus the case rate. That would imply that, yeah, a lot of people do recover. They're not tracking at Worldometer. They just don't track the recovery for Canada. I don't know why. The other thing is this death rate is quite low with regards to the American, or with respect to the American one. So the USA one here, their death rate is a little higher, but we see that just that little uptick essentially is what cripples the healthcare system in that country, and that's what causes all the problems. But I can get into more the context of the data when you run it through matplotlib. There are other plotting packages for Python, but I'm going to end the video there, and we'll get back to this later when I add a bit of code and hopefully functionalize this a little bit better. Alright, just got to find that other shell window, and we'll quit recording there.